So, as I was saying, AIDA is a regional organization working to protect the environment and the communities in Latin America. And during this presentation, I am going to talk about another of the tools that we as civil society are using in order to fight climate change and the climate crisis and to achieve climate justice. We all know that we need to act, and we need to act fast. And as my colleagues in the panel were saying, there's several kinds of action to achieve climate justice. And from our perspective, I am going to share some elements that we find are the most important in this concept of climate justice. We need to reverse negative actions causing climate change, but we need to attribute the responsibility and have accountability for those responsible for climate crisis and the equitable distribution of responsibilities. And in that sense, we need to implement deep and systemic changes in this decade is the most important in order to not arriving to the tipping point when we cannot reverse the effects of climate change. And we need to do this considering social equity, traditional knowledge, having a human rights perspective, and respecting also the human rights of indigenous and local peoples with a gender's perspective, considering the rights of children and youth, workers' rights in order to have a just transition. And then it's really, really important to take into account the importance of care. How do we manage the care that we give for the planet, other ways of life, our families, our neighborhoods, our cities, our ecosystems. And in order of achieving this, we need to focus our attention in who are the main responsible. You can see in this slide the carbon majors, which have emitted the most of greenhouse gases during the last years. We have 20 companies, most of them are fossil fuel companies. And from our Latin American perspective, we have to recognize that companies like Pemex, Petrobras, or PDVSA are also responsible for the biggest emissions in a historical perspective. And also in this slide, you can see how the global north has got more responsibility regarding emissions, but countries like Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Venezuela, and even Colombia are responsible for a big amount of historical greenhouse gases emissions. And in arriving to the main part of my presentation, for us in AIDA, climate litigation is a strategic way of doing litigation that could be a complementary tool to the work for the defense of the environment. As we saw with our colleagues from Extinction Rebellion and Fridays for Futures, the Edu Communication presentation, there are a lot of tools to have the defense of the environment made, and the protection of the territory and the rights of the peoples and communities. And climate litigation is only one of them. We have seen really important developments like the Shell case that we just hear a sentence, a really important decision last week, attributing the responsibility to Shell, this very big multinational company, for the historical emissions. So with climate litigation, we can have legal actions that include climate change arguments, whether they are primary or subsidiary, as a tool for the judges to take decisions. This type of litigation seeks for climate justice in coordination with the leadership of the communities and movements involved in the litigation. And as I mentioned before, human rights and gender perspective are very important for seeking to reduce the existing inequities. For us in AIDA, we have been doing climate litigation regarding several aspects of the projects that are contributing to climate change. And I am going to talk very quick about three of the cases that we have been working on regarding fracking, coal, and the gas flaring in Colombia, Chile, and Ecuador. For the case of Colombia, we supported civil society organizations from that country in achieving a judicial moratorium regarding the regulation of fracking. As we know, fracking is a practice, a technique to exploit oil that is very harmful for the ecosystem and the communities around those ecosystems, but also is very bad for the climate crisis because of the methane emissions and big technical problems. And for us as lawyers, we supported a decision, a case that brought a decision from the Council of State that regarding the precautionary principle said that assuming that the risks of potential damages of fracking are foreseeable or reversible is risky at this stage. And for this conference, it's really important to talk about this case because we have an expert opinion rendered by the Interdisciplinary Commission of Experts of the National University of Colombia, which is the biggest and the most important university in Colombia, that said that the risks of fracking at this moment doesn't allow for the government to start with this practice. So you can see the action in collaboration between lawyers and civil society organizations and the university in order to achieve this decision, which now has to be confirmed by the courts in Colombia. Another important element of the fight against climate crisis in Latin America is the problem of coal in Chile. 40% of its energy comes from coal and from 28 thermoelectrical plants that are located in zones of the country called sacrifice zones. The government has put in place a plan for decarbonization for the year 2040, but we as civil society organization are trying to make this plan to be faster. As you know, the last months in Chile has been a very important historical moment for popular action. And one of the things that the people were complaining about were the sacrifice zones, which are the zones where the thermoelectrical plants operate and pollute the air and causes harms for the population. So these sacrifice zones are example of the inequity in burden and in benefit sharing of the current economical system in Chile. And now we have an opportunity to support the new constitution, which can be an ecological constitution. And that's something that the civil society in that country is willing for. Finally, the last case that I want to share with you is a case that we are supporting currently in Ecuador. As you know, the gas flaring is a big important in the areas of oil exploitation in the Ecuadorian Amazon because of the emission of short-lived climate pollutants, mainly methane. These are highly toxic emissions of various atmospheric pollutants, and they are very important on their effects on the environment and their impact on climate change. AIDA has been working with SEMDA in Mexico in order to also have communication campaigns in order to inform how the methane pollutes our air, and it's very harmful for the health of the population, but also for its power as a greenhouse gas. currently we are supporting a case against a Chinese company that has an oil camp in Ecuador, and we are hoping that with the amicus curiae briefing that we are submitting, we can support the courts in Ecuador to condemn this company in order to stop this flaring, gas flaring in the Amazon of Ecuador. That will be from our part, our presentation. I hope you have enjoyed it, and we are here for the questions. Thank you very much.